does. I'll share my moon here.
Okay, I'll turn my video off.
My partial moon.
I'm done with dinner.
So that's what I was clicking on late at night.
Okay.
I think around what time? 11:52 p.m. last night. So just before midnight. The sky was staying clear for a while. Except for, you know, got a little haze, I guess, from the smoke up high somewhere.
So is this a single image or is this the composite?
This is a single image. Yeah, my composite was supposed to be this one plus that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, this gets the idea. It's so waning gibbous. Now what's actual pixels? What's that look like? View actual size. So zoom in a bit. How do I move it around? Let's see. Oh, should be able to move it. It's not moving. I don't get it. Should be moving now. This is a Microsoft Photos program. Maybe, trying to grab it and it won't move. Who knows? It's always something different on the Photos program. It works pretty well. You know, Photos gives you all sorts of ability to do some basic editing. You know, you can adjustments. I really like. You can do all sorts of things here. Of course, now I can't see what they are because of my size of the screen here. Let's see. But your adjustments at light, you can break this out and do the shadows, make them lighter, which is really nice. You know, take a dark shot and then brighten up the shadows. They say that's the best thing with a camera is to take it kind of dark, and that you can recover dark, but you can't recover from the light.
Oh, yeah, I've used this program too a few times. It's nice.
Hey, Robert.
Good for simple
Hey,
things.
hi.
Bob, Richard.
Oh man, my shirt looks crazy.
It looks good. Looks good.
It is showing well. I'll see how it looks in full view.
Oh, you look okay. You look great.
I've got patterns moving all around in my picture here, so.
Oh, that's very creative.
Yeah, right. It's like I'm charged.
I'm just playing with a moon photo from last night that I did.
Oh, cool.
And, or is it better to take the exposure down? Contrast. Let's see, more contrast. There we go. There's a contrasty moon.
Yeah, that shows up. I like it with more contrast. Shows up more of the details, especially the rays.
This was taken with my Olympus digital camera with through the 12-inch Dobsonian I have.
So at f what?
You know, that's a good question. I think it's, I don't know if it's f5 or not. Seems like it must be longer than that.
So you took it as a prime focus at f5?
Well, you know, through the eyepiece, through the focuser.
Oh, wait, yeah, I mean, you focus, I mean, I'm a little confused here. You had the lens out of the camera and then the camera is looking through the focuser with no eyepiece, so you were getting the image from the actually created by the mirror. Is that
Right.
the way you did? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And then
And what's the aperture?
12-inch.
12-inch. Yeah. That sounds like f5 or f6 would be about right, given the field of view.
Yeah, it's one of those collapsible Skywatcher scopes, so it collapses down and fits across my back seat. Better that way.
Good.
Carry it to outreaches, but it
Nice.
didn't quite fit the frame, so I tried to do 2 exposures. I was trying to composite them together, but that didn't work out. I have to try that again.
Yeah, yeah, you're just at the edge of your field of view for the camera.
All right, Tim and Dick Beam are coming in. Tim Crawford and Dick Beam
Hey,
coming in.
Jim.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Dick. Hi, Hank.
Everybody.
Hello.
Oh well. Let's stop share.
There we go. Oh,
Yeah,
hey, Bob.
my shirt looks better in a larger picture. In the smaller picture, I was getting all kinds of the, what do you call those? There's a term for them.
Artifacts. Let's see.
Well, it's artifact. but there's a term for it.
Moray.
Yeah, getting that effect. You can see a little bit of it there, but it's really big time in the small picture.
Need resolution. So who's been taking any astro photos, or anybody have something they want to present right away?
I am still sort of astrophotoist because we're working on the observatory. It'll be here and still going to be in October. I just want to tell all of you that I've put together a 7 residents, and they will be my assistants in operating the observatory. And we meet weekly for a class in astronomy, getting the basic stuff, going through an introductory text. We've been looking at just Jupiter and Saturn, and we'll get into the planets more. But anyway, this is a really enthusiastic group of people who really want to learn, and it's all kinds of fun, all kinds of fun. So we're all having a really good time, and their main tasks will be, when I'm operating the telescope and we have residents come to view, they will manage that. So I don't have to be worried about what's going on out there while I'm trying to figure out what's going on in here. So anyway, I just want to bring you up to date. It's really moving along, and it's exciting. And we have a really good group of people here.
Everybody staying healthy there in Westminster?
Yeah, we've had a couple of cases, but nothing serious. They haven't shut everything down. I hope they don't. I think we'll be fine unless we start getting, problems.
Look at another variant.
Another variant. Don't bring that up. It's bad enough. I don't want to think ahead.
So what do you think? Is Westminster 100% vaccinated?
Yeah, but it is. Well, yeah, the residents, employees are not. We just today, there's a lot of discussion about mandating employee vaccinations. And Biden came out with saying that all people having to do with long-term care employees should be vaccinated, mandated. The problem, which we're going to have to face very soon, is that this mandate that he proclaimed only deals with people in this kind of a setting, but not healthcare. So there's big concern that there'll be a lot of employees who don't want to be vaccinated for whatever reason will be fleeing working in these settings and going into healthcare settings where it's not mandated. So there's a big concern about now we're going to start losing employees. We won't be able to find people to work here. So it's a big, it's a big problem right now of how to figure all this out. little did I think I'd be dealing with this stuff coming here.
Yeah, looks like all the way into 2022, going to be affecting us.
Yeah, so, but anyway, we're still on track to get the observatory in first part of October, so that'll be fun. I'll start taking pictures and I can show it to you and put it together. You can see how it looks, and then finally we get it working, I'll start taking pictures again.
So you're going to have a C11. It's going to be on a pedestal mount.
Right now, it'll be on a combination. It's a tri-post. It's a post with feet on. And the reason I did that is that I'm concerned about possible vibration from the freeway nearby. So I decided that rather than do anything permanent, at least to begin with, I'll set it on a post with the, the tri-post, and it has vibration pads on it so that it can absorb some of the vibration. I'll see how that goes. If it looks really good, then we'll probably put a permanent pier in and bolt it down to the slab.
I wonder if there's a way to, how would someone measure the amount of vibration that they're getting from their slab? Is there a method for doing that?
Probably, I don't know what it is, but there is some, because as I've mentioned before, the slab acts kind of as a diaphragm on top of the ground, and if the ground moves, the slab picks up those vibrations. So, all I can do is put it up, get it going, see what we've got, see what we're dealing with. It's a great location. Other than that, I think it'll be excellent. But we'll see.
Bob, how close is the freeway?
Oh, it's only I don't know, probably 100 yards.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
big trucks will really get you.
Yeah.
What they do up at the observatories, I think what they do is they come in with they'll come in with these big sonotubes, and they'll dig down 20, 25 feet and put a column of cement down there, and then they'll hook they'll hook your pillar, your mount to that pylon, and that way you're deep enough that it'll probably miss all that vibration. But I don't know that either. You'd probably have to fill in around that with gravel and something to dampen that vibration. But 100 yards with a big semi going by, I guarantee you're going to feel it. We play tennis near a freeway it's more than 100 yards away. I think we're it's about 100, 150 yards. And every time a semi passes, you can feel it. And they've got these big 5-6 inch slabs that are, and you can feel it. So
well, there's an off ramp that comes up right near us, and the freeway is on the other side of the off ramp. So maybe it's more than 100 yards away, but it's not far. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean,
the ground there is fairly porous, as I remember in Arizona. That's one of the problems with the water base there, is that they have to go down so far with the wells. So that could pose a problem, I would imagine, in terms of if you did do a sunken pier, you'd have to go down quite a few feet. I went down, my pier goes down to the hard pan, and our hard pan's it's actually 4 feet down below grade, but pan is about 3 to 4 feet down. And then, but I'm not near a freeway or anything like that.
Dick, I think these guys go down with these observatories. They go down 20.
Oh yeah, they got to.
Deeper.
Well, yeah, and look at what the weight that they're supporting. If you got a big, huge, giant scope like that, man, and if it's a equatorial mount, then you got to consider the counterweights as well. If it's a alt-az method, it's made much better, much easier to do. But
I think up at Westmont College they have what is that, Tom? A 24-inch scope,
24 inch, yeah.
And they have a huge column that goes down, I think 20, 25 feet. And the column itself, that sucker might be like 4 or 5 feet, maybe more across. It's a huge column. And then they have I remember when, what's the guy in Goleta, Wayne Rosing, when he was talking about the scopes they built up in Solvang, or up past Solvang, when they put those in, that he was describing how they put the post in, the column in, and then around the column they have some kind of porous material around that, and then they have seams with rubber. They put some kind of rubber in every part that is going to touch that column. It just has a rubber insulation going around it. So everything, single seam, everything is to dissipate that vibration.
Yeah.
And they're
Well,
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, those are professional installations. And,
Yeah.
but we'll just have to see what happens once I get set up there, see how it goes.
Yeah.
How do you like this setup here? With that looks like
Yeah,
a 14 inch.
I'd say you'd be pretty doggone rickety on that thing, but if he's got some way of supporting it underneath, it might not be too bad. If he could, he looks like he's got some feet there on the back, jack stands. So
Yeah.
he probably can, I don't know. I think it would be a little awkward having that floor like that, to work on it and to actually use it. But whatever works.
Gotta be careful at night, you don't misstep.
Yeah.
I thought you
End
got
up in the
a scope on a
grass.
trampoline.
Yeah,
Scope
trip
on a
on that
trampoline.
sucker on the tire and then hit the post. Yeah. That'd be about my speed.
I just wonder how they adjust the wedge mount for the declination properly, how they get that
It would
perfect.
be something that looks like it'd be easy to adjust with that sort of a setup there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could adjust the trailer. You could do the trailer up and down. So
It's
if you had
gotta be. Here's an interesting one down here. I saw well, that's kind of one with not sure what's going on there. But this guy, look at this. He's just got four all-frames.
Yeah. That looks like one of my little portable rigs with the spacers, but I'd say that's really pretty questionable there, I'd say. Just
He
because
goes all the
Like a
goes all
torque.
the trouble of putting the
the
concrete
stability
pier,
would
puts
be
it on
what I would,
stilts.
yeah. It looks like he did a roll off. He was planning to do something else. He had it really low to the floor, and then he decided to do something different.
Well, why would you put a concrete pier in, and then you put the telescope and mount on stilts?
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
I gotta agree. I would say get one of those little piers, and they'll make them to custom length. So that's just a cheapy way of doing it there. And you're gonna have problems.
Seems strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a cloudy night site there, talking about vibration for mounts, I guess. Very strange.
Well, those vibration dampening feet that Bob was talking about, those suckers work great. I mean, it's amazing how well they work. You can tap a scope without the feet on, and you can be looking through the eyepiece, and the thing just wiggles all over the place. And you put those feet on, and it'll wiggle, but the dampening effect, the wiggling goes away really quick. So they work really well. But as soon as you tap it, it's back to wiggle.
I've got a set of those, but I generally don't use them, but maybe I should think about using them again.
They work pretty good. I mean, I was amazed because somebody did an experiment, and they, I wasn't right there, but the guy said, look, you tap the scope and you can see it. And then it's not the vibration you want to look for. It's the amount of time that it takes for that vibration to go away. and those feet just take that vibration and just cut the time and at least a half. So you can get that dampening out of there really fast. And they're nothing more than just
Yeah.
rubber pads.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll let you, Curtis, I'll let you guys know all about this as we get it going, put together. You'll be hearing from me with probably a certain amount of rejoicing and frustration. I'm prepared to do both.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna take photos and I'll post those up and you can see how it comes together and let you know once it gets operating how it's working. And so as I've told my group I work with, I said to them, I know quite a bit about scopes and astrophotography, but I've never been down a road to build an observatory and work with other people on it all one time. So it's a new experience for me, but it's fun. It's exciting. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it's sad for the Museum of Natural History here that has that nice 20-inch telescope and other nice 6-inch refractor and 6-inch solar scope as well on it, and it's not being used, just sitting there. As far as I know, City College, I don't think they might have their labs come over there, maybe since they're outdoors. Maybe they can do the astronomy class, but it's
Tom,
such
did
a
you
nice
get the
scope.
email from Edgar?
And Edgar, no, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Edgar sent an image around of being inside the observatory, and Chuck asked him. He said, "Well, what are you doing in there? And is it open again? And what are they using it for?" And he never really responded. But somehow he got back into the observatory, and it very well may be that City College is starting to use it. But he was inside,
Great.
No, that's a shame. That scope was just sort of being finished up when I left. And I was really wanting to use it to do astrophotography. And I was wanting to get some time on it. And I talked with what was the liaison's name?
Javier. Yeah.
Javier, yeah, I was talking with Javier about that. So really, and he thought that'd be great. So
Yeah, he did Bobby did a couple classes for astrophotography, but then now since he's retired, since the COVID came on, he's left the museum and nobody's there to take his position at this point.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's probably one of the reasons that the scope's sitting there. So that's too bad. Is that it's really a nice instrument.
If Chuck or Jerry was here right now, they may have a little bit more info on that, because I know that Chuck mentioned to me long ago that they were going to, and maybe have hired somebody to chair the astronomy department. You know anything about that, Tom? That there's somebody now that's an interim?
Well, there was one guy, Raphael Cotton, I think his name was, that he was hanging out there. I'm not sure if he was going to be involved or what his deal was, but the main person in charge is Zemer. She's kind of the head of the educational thing, and seems like she was pretty much supposed to be in charge, but I don't know. Yeah, I think we'll have to wait until 2022 breaks out and see if they bring up a new person to take over the systems. So Hank, you said you wanted to show your new mount, your equatorial.
Yeah, I when I went to Stellafane, before I left, I wanted to fix up my old barn door mount because it was on a very flaky tripod, and I have a nice tripod that's very sturdy. And I didn't have the time to do it then, but I did it after I got back. So it's actually sitting right here. I hope I can show it. And I guess if I keep talking, it will stay in the view, right? So let me see here. Where's the camera? Okay, so that's it. Actually, that's not so bad.
Ooh.
So the arm is quite a bit longer than the old one. It's a bit heavy because I used 5-ply plywood. But that's okay because I had to put the hinge on this side. There's a piece of piano hinge over there. I don't know if you can see it, but I can turn it actually. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it sticks out a little bit above the plywood, which is good because I can line up the Telrad against it. And that way I can easily polar align it. So first you have to make sure that the Telrad is parallel to the axis, and you can do that in the daytime by just turning it and see where the circles go. You have to stay in one place, and then it's parallel. And then you can just aim it at the northern celestial pole. You have to look at stellarium exactly where Polaris is relative to the NCP, and then you just do it. So that works okay. Yeah, and I attached it with the rubber band, so I can just take it off. This one also has a nice ball head. This is one that I got a while ago. It can rotate in 3 different ways. So there are 2 screws for loosening the ball, and I have to hold the camera here, and then there's one that goes horizontal. So this can roll all the way around fairly well. And there's a question of how do you aim the camera? Well, I've got a T-shaped piece of wood that I can clamp where the camera sits now, and then I can put the Telrad perpendicular to that on the other part. I don't have it here right now, but you can sort of imagine it maybe. And the Telrad can sit to the right or to the left, depending upon where there's space and where you need to have the eye. But that way I can just basically point this thing at the object, and then I put the camera back in place, and then it should be good. So here's the battery.
So Hank, how much time do you get in the movement there?
I think 35 minutes. The screw is kind of short. So if I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So the screw is 20 threads per inch. I could have used a longer screw, but this was the only one that I had available. Actually, it was from an old piece that I had cut off one time. I can make it as twice as long if I have to, but 35 minutes is good enough for now. And I actually had an older one where I had a piece of epoxy at the top, a blob of epoxy that I simply pushed the motor shaft into. And I started using that the first night. And I noticed if you totally zoomed in on the stars that you could see a few wiggles. It was going back and forth. It was like 3 times per 2 minutes or something. And after I calculated the period of one rotation, it was exactly 43 seconds. So what I found out is that blob of epoxy, the shaft was not quite at the center of it. And so what I did now is I put I don't know if you can see it, there's a nut. Maybe you can see it. There's a nut here. I put that on, I threaded that a little bit on the top, and then put epoxy, metal epoxy underneath it, and also metal epoxy in the hole at the top. And then I pushed the axis in there. And so that's much better centered because it's centered right inside the screw that is centered on top of the thread. The other thing that you'll see here is this is a T-nut with 2 teeth sticking out. And these teeth are sticking into small holes that I drilled. It's like maybe 2 millimeter deep. You can't see it here, but that guarantees that there's a pivot point that's well defined and sitting in one place. Because this is really millimeter work. So so I could tell after I did the improve this screw with the epoxy thing. That vibration was gone. So actually that did make a difference, and it may have been just 1 millimeter off or so, but that's more than enough to screw things up. So anyway, so you can turn it on. It always has to start from a given position, because I correct for the fact that this is not a round screw digitally in the Arduino code. And so in order for that to work, it has to start from a known position that is hard-coded in the Arduino. So if I use a longer screw, then I'll have to change that code and reflash it. But you just turn it on, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a there's a light. No, I guess. Well, yeah, there it is.
The light, yeah.
That's the controller of the motor, and this is I think it's a 500 milliwatt motor, or it could be 50 milliwatt. It's very little, at least, and it should be able to run 8 hours on these batteries. They're 6 rechargeable AA's. And
Hank, is that cross member, is that attached that you just touched? Is that attached with rubber bands?
This here is the battery pack, and I attached it with rubber bands so you can take it off, because if you want to take the batteries out, you have to shake it in your hands and then they fall out. Also, the other thing is what happened with the old barn door, or with another barn door, is that if you have a camera on here, it's not easy to topple the whole thing over and it flips down. If you don't have anything to hold it, that could happen. So this also prevents those kinds of accidents because
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
this is a pretty heavy lens. So I don't mind having this rubber band. It works
No.
well.
No.
Anyway, that's it. Oh
So
yeah, and
Hank,
this-
you focus just using the live view in the camera, or do you have a cable to down to a computer for focusing, critical focusing and so on?
No, so the focusing is indeed it works, but what I did these times is since Jupiter is now in the sky early on, I just pointed at Jupiter and focused on there. That's not too hard. But I did find out that this is a 70 to 300 millimeter lens, which is longer than it's meant to be. Actually, yeah, I just put the 300 millimeter on there just to test to see how well it tracks. But if you focus, the focus is really sensitive to how far you turn it. So you have to turn it all the way to the left to get infinity, but this thing focuses a little beyond infinity, so you have some slack, and then you turn it back a little bit. And
Yeah.
that is really a tiny little bit, so it's a bit tricky, and then you stay away from it. It's probably best to do that in the daytime and just put tape on it if you've got something. So it's not something that you have to do at night.
Yeah.
And yeah, so unfortunately, it's been very cloudy. I don't know if you noticed, but the fog banks came in pretty much the whole night and covered half the sky. So I do have some test images, but it's nothing to show. But so I wish I would have had something better, but maybe next time. But from what I've seen so far, this one tracks fairly well.
Good.
Anyway,
Nice.
I always wanted to have something that is portable that you can throw in a backpack and take on a hike, bring it out with some people or whatever, have some fun with.
It looks like it doesn't weigh anything.
Oh, it does. Yeah. So I mean, this board is kind of heavy actually. But
Okay.
But you know, if you put some kind of composite material in there instead of that board with the same design, you really have something there that you could put in a little backpack and take it, you know.
Yes. Well, okay. So this board is one, but actually, what I should say is this.
Oh
tripod
yeah, there you
is a hell
go.
of a lot.
That's another
I
story.
mean, this is not a childish tripod. It has a 40-pound capacity. If it's not 40 kilograms, I think it's 40 pounds.
Jeez.
So it's quite a bit. Or maybe even 40 kilograms. I'm not quite sure, but it was
Whoa.
yeah. I got it for $35 at the RTMC. It was a great deal, and they still sell this guy as it is here. It's a tilt-all. I recommend it. Anyone who wants to use it. It's very simple, but it's very effective as well, and rock solid. So it's just a joy to use. For my binoculars, it's unfortunately just a little bit too short because I'm kind of tall, and if you put the binoculars up there, right now it's not at the maximum height, by the way. I only have two legs out, and the center post can also be a lot taller. But if I want to use it for my binos, it's a little bit too short actually. So otherwise it would have to be super. Well, for binos, you should actually have 45-degree or 90-degree binos. That's the only reasonable way, or else you'll wreck your neck anyway. But yeah, but just for the daytime use, it's with the 20x80s. It's great stuff. Anyway.
So you were back at Stellafane?
Yes, I was at Stellafane. But
How was that?
oh, I showed pictures last time.
Oh, okay.
So Bob, yeah, you need to go to our YouTube site and look at last week's telescope workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
But
take a look there.
Stellafane was great. Just no, so I went there with my son. So this wasn't a cross-country trip. I drove up there in 7 days and spent 7 days there and 4 days at Stellafane. It was, a good deal of people. They had some interesting presentations on Saturday. There was a presentation on Sunday, on Saturday too, but those were beginner presentations that I didn't attend to. But there was a lot of do-it-yourself stuff and neat stuff, really. So yeah, it was great fun to be there.
It's
I'm
great.
still dreaming about that brass telescope that you showed. Those pictures were beautiful.
Yeah.
I still think that was a Clark and Sons. A lot of guys go after those. There's a whole, when I was up at RTMC, Hank, they was a guy up there I talked with that, he collected them. I mean, he went after them intentionally. And he said there's a whole group of guys in the United States that go after those and refurbish them, polish them all up and fix them up. They're unbelievable. I think he had a 6-inch one himself, and he got rid of that to get a 5-inch. And the 5-inch they got was the college that laid him off. And he went back to the college and got this 5-inch refractor, all brass. And it was complete. There weren't even missing parts, nothing. It was really, really sweet. I have a picture somewhere, and I'm going to try and find it. But there's a picture of this guy with that scope.
So this is a brass scope that we have in our shed that will need to be sold, and it says Paris on here, but Bardou Son Paris, and it's got a very clever little eyepiece cover at the end. It does have a cover at this end, which isn't shown here, but you can see how beat up it is. It's been thrown around evidently, but pretty interesting. I don't think I've tried to look through it yet to see what's going on here. Bardou Son Paris. What else does that say there? A trademark, okay. GB. So very clever cover. Let's see if I can see that. You can see this kind of flips back and forth. A little slide for the cover for the eyepiece end.
GB. I wonder what GB is.
It's some kind of trademark for Bardou. It's probably maybe his first name was George Bardou. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah, you see that little flip in the eyepiece there?
Looks
I
a
guess
little
that
rough
needs
there.
a little cleaning, you think?
It's a little rough there.
Gee, Christmas.
Tom, sometime I'll bring this little refractor my dad had, and it has that same little lever at the eyepiece end that you saw, that little metal piece, and you flip it closed and you flip it closed and flip it open. And that's how, and I've got one, I got it here, but one of the lenses cracked. I don't know how it happened, but it's very old. I don't know where it came from, but he had it from the old days at sea, and probably 1 3/4 inch in diameter, something like that. It's pretty small.
Yeah, that's probably somewhat similar to this scope. I can't quite tell the size there.
See how he flicked the little that end of that the eyepiece there. He just flicked it closed with that little lever, and that's the same gizmo that they got on this one I have. I got to bring it and show you sometime.
All right.
And with surplus shed, I bet you I could find a lens that would fit that. If I could figure out the focal length and everything, you could probably find a lens and just sub it out, and it'd be back in business again.
Now we also have a spare Mead wedge mount. If anybody knows somebody that wants one, I'll show you what we got here. Right here. It's got the nice little compass mount on top. It's an LX90 or LX200, 8 or 10 inch. I'm not really sure. For sure it was an 8-inch, but not sure if a 10 would fit there as well. So very, very clean. It came, John Boyd, this actually belonged to John Boyd, and he
Really?
He donated it to be taken off by somebody.
I ran into somebody that was looking for something like that. I got to try to remember who it was.
Yeah, please. Yeah, probably $80 or something like that.
Yeah, and they had been given a old Celestron, but I think the mount was broken. Remember I mentioned that somebody had told me that the gear in it. No, never mind. I think I remember who it was. It turned out it wasn't an 8-inch Celestron, and and the mount was fine. It was something else that was broken. But that's a good mount.
We sold an 8-inch Baytronics, which had a kind of a bad reputation, to this guy Brian Green in town. He's a sailor and he's a golfer. He runs Green Apartments in Santa Barbara. He's a long-term Santa Barbara guy. You might know him, Tim. Brian Green, and he bought first he bought this little 70 millimeter Meade, cheapo scope. And then he came over to my house and he saw what's over in this case here, it's the trunk, and it was a Meade 8-inch Meade. And unfortunately, the 8-inch Meade, Art and I looked at it, we couldn't fix the 1/8 RPM motor on it, but he took that for $400. And then he saw this 8-inch Baytronics Newtonian, and he took that with its mount, and Art found the controller for it, but it turned out that it was stripped, that probably whoever had used it before did not balance their scope, and they stripped the worm gear on it. So he's going, so what are we going to do? So we had this Celestron Advanced GT mount in the shed, and so I pretty much passed that on to him, and so he's going to try to use that, but he's kind of happy just manually moving things around. So anyway, Brian Green's been a great customer lately. So here's a couple more little things. This is a Orion tabletop equatorial mount. It's got three little legs. It has a motor, probably only for RA. There's no deck motor, so you have to align it. Get your deck set up, I guess, and then you could run it for RA. And just a tabletop little thing, just pretty cute. And it's got the weight and the motor, and then there's a camera mount. Somehow that works. I don't know how that works. It's the camera mount. But
I had a larger version of that on a tripod. It just had the RA power. It was great. It worked really well.
Huh.
I used it with my solar scope, and in fact, when I left, I gave it to somebody. I gave them that. I forget who took it, but I didn't want to bring it back here because I didn't know how much I'd use it here then anyway. But yeah, it's a good little mounting.
It's actually, I think, like the same mount that they put on the taller tripod. Basically, they just turned it into a little tabletop system.
Yeah.
Good for a digital camera. Yeah, I would think. I don't know how well it would track, and there's no way to control it, but maybe if you get it lined up just right, or don't take too long of exposure.
What were those little Orion Newtonians that were really popular for a while? We even gave them away on Astronomy Day.
Are you talking about Dobsonian?
It might have been a Dob.
Yeah, they're Dobs, I think. Well, no, we had a tabletop one, right? Yeah, a little 4-inch tabletop.
Yeah,
Orion.
They made just a little 4-inch. It was really dinky little jobby, and they were so popular. I can't remember the name of them.
Well, I think it's just a 4-inch tabletop Dob. Yeah, just a easy one to use. I don't understand how this works. What does this clamp onto? And somehow you mount your motor maybe at this end. There's a counterweight over here, I guess. I'm not sure how this system works on a, what does this mount on?
Yeah. Well, obviously you're clamping something into it. But what would fit that clamp? That doesn't. It seems to me, Tom, that would go on the leg of a tripod, right?
I would think it'd have to. No, you'd want it to move with the scope somehow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how this is designed to work. If it clamps onto an eyepiece or onto the
SteadyPix. SLR mount.
It's a camera mount. Yeah.
I got to figure that out.
I don't know. It's odd.
So then this was a Celestron Advanced GT mount that we gave him. It has a GPS built into it, so he got a good deal since the Baytronics didn't work. This is hopefully still a good mount. Although I did put his scope on here, his Baytronics 8-inch Newtonian on here, and when I ran it, it didn't seem to be tracking correctly, even though it said we're told the system that we're equatorial north mounting, and it just didn't seem to, the Mars and Venus and didn't seem to be in the right positions when we turned it on. So hopefully he won't notice it. It has got a polar scope to go through it. So, but
What's-
he hasn't
what's all
returned
the-
it.
What's all the tape? What's with all the masking
But
tape? up there?
that was covering the polar scope opening. Someone just put masking tape there.
Man,
So that's,
there are more aesthetic ways of covering it than masking tape.
yeah, that was
Jeez.
quick and dirty, whoever had
I
this. Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah, so you
Yeah.
just got a hole there and he didn't have any, he
Yeah.
lost the cover. That's what
Well, you
happened.
know, Celestron, I have an advanced VX. Like, Hank, do you have advanced VX too?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah, and the cover for the polar scope area, just kind of a cheap piece of plastic that kind of doesn't
Falls
stay
off.
in very well.
I
Uh-huh.
know I have it, but it falls out all the time. It drops out all the time.
Yeah, so Celestron didn't do that very well. I don't like, I have a Celestron CGX, which, you know, is supposed to carry 50 pounds, and it is not tracking well. I'm going to have it hyper-tuned. I'm going to have both of them hyper-tuned, and hopefully they'll be more reliable. But Celestron kind of, I think it cranks out their products a little bit too quickly. And not
What's
happy.
Did you guys hear that Orion bought?
Not me. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, we're not sure what that means for the Mead products, what they'll do for Mead.
it saved them from bankruptcy, right? At least immediately.
Yeah, but it's kind of ironic that they caused the bankruptcy too, probably because of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a little bit ironic, you know, it's almost like a hostile takeover.
Well, I don't know if it's rumor or not, but I think that Mead's now they're gonna have parts again. So there's a lot of guys that were really upset because they had a lot of, you know, Mead
They
mounts.
got invested into it, yeah.
Yeah, and so here they're just sitting. It's just sitting there, and a lot of guys are just throwing them away. Well, now they might be able to get some parts, and that's a big deal. And I think you're right. I think that Orion caused it, but hey, I think Mead did something, and Orion caught him on it.
Yeah, Oh,
You
yeah.
Yeah,
can't
that
do
whole
it.
group, yeah, the
Yeah.
judge found,
price fixing.
yeah, it did really
Yeah.
found not only me, but some other, yeah, price fixing, yeah.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
price fixing. They were trying to undercut the pricing on all the other scopes, and in a competitive market, Orion took them to court and they won.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they bought him.
And then it's like I said, it's ironic, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like a hostile takeover.
But the guys that didn't have any parts, they may have access to parts. I mean, I think they were like the big gear on the, what is it? The azimuth wheel, those big gears, they were all constantly breaking. And I know there was somebody that was saying that at one time, I think Mead was making a gear that was plastic, that big gear. And I could swear somebody said that in the workshop one time. And they said, no, that can't be. And maybe aluminum, but you know, I don't know. I wish I had that conversation, you know, in good memory, but I don't.
You know, I was talking about printing, and I found out a couple more things. I had some Gator board that didn't have the adhesive on it. One of the guys mentioned, I think it was Mike, mentioned, you know, get some adhesive on there. And I was kind of trying to figure out something that I could use. And I came up with this stuff. I had this stuff earlier because I used this stuff for foam rubber, for gluing layers of foam rubber together for packaging and stuff like that. And it's called 3M Super 77. You can get this stuff pretty much at any hardware store, but it's basically a spray-on adhesive. And I had tried it out on one image, and the problem I had with it is you got this glue surface, see, and then you're trying to put this print down. Well, as you put it down and you're using your hand, you're kinking it, you know, and so you load it kinked up, and then of course it screws the whole thing up. So I got the image printed out and put on the board, but it did crease a little bit. Can't really see it that much. So anyway, I found that the best technique is to lay the print out on top of the board with no glue. Then I took a 6-foot piece of ABS, about 2-inch, and I rolled it up, starting with a corner going diagonally, so that the pipe was about 90 degrees to the diagonal. And then I just took a piece of tape and taped it to that, except I used masking tape, or I used Scotch tape, and I would recommend maybe painter's tape, so because it tore a little bit of the paper off. But anyway, you put that on there and you just wrap that around there nice and tight, roll that thing up as you go along, roll it all the way across. Then I took it out there to the garage, put the spray on, took it back in. The stuff's tacky right away, okay? And then I just basically did the reverse. I unrolled that sucker on. I'll show you the results on that. It came out perfect. In this one, I did the row Ophiuchus area again. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's basically what I come up with. This is basically what I did was the same thing. You guys have seen this one before, I think. But basically, it's a matte finish 5mm paper. I got a 24-inch roll feed printer, and it just came out perfect. I mean, it was really not that bad. I had a little trouble up in one of the corners over here because I didn't wrap it tightly enough. But see, what's nice about that is you don't get any creasing, see? So if you're gonna do large format like that, that one there is close to 24 by 36. It's a little in from that right there. For something like that, you're going to need to probably use, I think the pipe works really well. So you could probably buy the gator board without the adhesive, it'd be cheaper. You know, just get the hardback stuff. You want to get the hardbacks. I think it's like a wood layer, and then there's styrofoam on both sides. You need it hard because you want to make sure you can press that thing down real good and get it to stick to the glue.
I had to leave for 1 second. The cat came in here, but you basically said you rolled the
print, you just tape it, you're gonna roll it diagonally. So you take the pipe and orientate it towards the diagonal of whatever you're printing.
Oh,
Okay?
really?
Yeah, and then you just tape it. But you've got the print side up, just like you just lay it on top of the gator board, print side up. And then you just tape that and roll that up onto the roll, keeping it tied all the way along, see? And then you get it all the way to the end, and then you just basically do the same thing in reverse. You put the adhesive on then at that point, and then just reverse the process.
Dick, what size pipe were you talking about? What kind of pipe were you using?
I used ABS 2-inch, and it was a 6-foot length of it. That's probably a little longer than you need, but think about it. You got to get the diagonal, see? So you need to have it long enough to wrap. What I found was one side of the diagonal part was real tight. So you're only going to get like one wrap at that point. And the other side was loose. And so when I started to lay it out on there, that one side that was loose, I kind of had to move my hand out there and just push it down a little bit onto the gator board because it didn't make good contact with the pipe. But the pipe actually aids in laying the thing down at the same time.
Now your gator board is bigger than the image by far, and then you trim it.
No, you just cut it. It doesn't matter. That part don't matter. The thing that you do want to think of though is when you put this thing on, since you're doing it diagonally, just look at the edges and try and line it up as best you can. I know what you're talking about. I know. But see, that doesn't matter, see, because you're gonna cut it anyway. So then what you do is once you've got it all laid out, I only wasted maybe a ½ an inch of the total print.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
The other thing too is on my roll feed, you're limited to 2/10 of an inch. You can't go edge to edge. Okay, so you can only go like you got 2/10 of an inch. So what do they call it? Borderless printing. You can't do borderless printing with it. So that helps a little bit too. So you're not quite at 24 by 36, you're 2/10 of an inch less on.
Oh.
So that helps.
You're trimming it anyway.
Yeah, and then you print it out. That's right. You can print it yourself. And so I just unrolled it out. Man, I tell you, it worked perfectly. See, the problem here is that if you use your arm with a your geometry of your arm and so forth, and you're getting it in between there, you can't control it very well at all.
Yeah.
And not only that, you'll crease it because
Yeah.
you don't have a smooth surface for it to roll on.
Smoothing
so
it
the
out.
pipe just worked out perfect, man. I tell you what, right now, if you're going to do large format, that's the way to go.
Now, what are you trimming it with?
Well, this is the part I need help with because it's a pain in the butt, and I cut my finger and everything like that. But I just take a regular box cutter.
Box cutter.
Yeah, just take a box cutter. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure you get through the paper first. So you want to go real easy on that edge first, okay? And just kind of cut it, maybe go through it 3 times. I used a piece of aluminum 1/2-inch bar stock. It was long enough, and I just laid that down for my straight edge. And I got really straight edges with that. So you just score it about 3 times real light with that.
Just make sure
then you can start to get aggressive. Yeah.
Make sure you use the box cutters have a double edge. You can turn those blades around.
That's what I did.
But you gotta make sure that you got a brand new blade every time you do an image, because otherwise, if you have any kind of a dull blade, you're gonna rip that paper up no matter what you do.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is you want to make sure, unfortunately, to a certain extent, that you put that straight edge on the print side that you're looking for. You don't want to put it on the outside, because if you put it on the outside, you'll do just exactly what you're talking about there. You'll tear it. So you can use that bar, that straight edge, as a way to keep it from getting ripped on the part you want.
Right.
And it'll rip on the other part. As you start to get aggressive with that thing, it'll start to rip it. And you could what you want to do when you run that knife is you want to run it at an angle. I would run it at an angle. And the reason why is that then the print will be on the front and the board itself will be kind of invisible behind that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you have like a little edge there.
Tiny little bevel.
Sorry?
Tiny little bevel. You just
a little bevel. Yeah, exactly. Just bevel.
Yeah.
And that works really good for me. And
there's probably a lot you can do there. And one of the things that I see as a danger is that when you're using that aluminum bar, aluminum, like if you can imagine you're laying it on top of your print, all kinds of stuff can happen. That aluminum can leave residue behind, so you got to clean that really.
I did. Every time I used it, I put alcohol on a napkin, and I just kind of run it across that, because otherwise it ends up getting all that oxide, and then the oxide gets onto the print and everything else. So I could have probably used a better straight edge. It's just what I had. So.
Just let it. If you can get a piece of stainless that's long enough, that's fine. But even to get a guys that cut glass, they make it, if they can cut glass to a really clean edge, or even plexiglass, and you can cut with that. But all the just screw around with it until you find something that's not going to hurt your image.
And hurt my hand.
You got to press down on it quite a bit, that's if you use wood, don't use wood, because no matter how hard you try, that wood's going to have some kind of grain issue, and you can clamp it down on your image, and then you look at it carefully and you're going to see little dots in your print. So it's got to have a really clean surface, or else it won't cut.
Yeah, it did really good once but it takes a lot of time. I would like to have something that's a little bit more automated, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if there is such a thing that could actually cut through that gator board at the same point. So maybe there is.
The gator board has wood on it.
It's a very thin laminated wood. Yes, it's got wood, like a wood layer on both sides, and then there's styrofoam in the middle.
Really that box
thin. Yeah, it's real thin. I mean, I could take
cutter is probably your best bet.
Yeah, I know.
That's-
I know. That's why I'm.
It-
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
'cause,
hard luck story.
Put it on a table saw and see what happens.
I did, and it
Yeah.
doesn't work good. It does.
No.
It trips it up. No, I
Oh,
tried.
it'll tear it up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it tears.
It's
It,
too,
it,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah. And the other thing too is I have
There's
a bunch
that-
of rust on the top of the table. And
You know, it'd probably be really worth it to go downtown sometime and go into these guys that do the, you know, they do mats.
yeah,
They do the mats, and they've got tricks, man. They have got really neat tricks if you talk to them long enough, and they can really turn you on to some good stuff. Like I can probably, there was a guy that was, you know, when I did laminate, I'm sitting here looking at a desktop that I did with laminate, and I used to contact cement. I told you that trick about, you know, pulling the little rods out when you do.
oh yeah,
this
you
guy
talk
had
about that. Yeah.
And this guy did a bench for us at work, and he had, it just wasn't a top that went to a 90-degree edge. It was a top that went to a 45-degree angle and then down. And so there was like a little 45 step down and then the apron around it. And it was so clean, you couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And I said, what the hell did you do? And he goes, I don't use contact cement, number one. And he goes, well, what the hell are you using? He goes, yellow glue. And I said, come on, you can't do that. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, you know, I got a shop, I've got a press. So he takes this laminate on the wood, and he puts the glue all over that sucker, and then he presses it in. And the seams come out like you cannot see the seams. It's a 45 that you can imagine him cutting that 45 degrees, and the seam is absolutely perfect. Real fine file goes back and finishes it so that you don't cut yourself. You know, I don't know about you, but whenever I've done laminate work, if you don't file that edge, you're gonna cut somebody big time. It's like a razor blade. Matter of fact, that might be a good edge for you to cut your
Really use it for the yeah.
But yeah, you gotta be. But that guy did it with yellow glue. I could not believe it. So they've got tricks. If you talk to any of those guys, they'll find that the guys that do that mat board and they put pictures on there.
Yeah.
If you talk to them a little bit, they might tell you a secret or two.
That's not a bad idea. Go down to one of those studios, you know. Right now, my studio's in the toilet in the shop. I've got all my prints in there because I can get away with that without too much trouble with the wife. You know, I won't have to worry about it, so I just put it out there.
Those guys got little tricks. I just, you know, I've seen them. I know that they have like you know, when you used to go to Kinko's and you're gonna cut your paper down to size.
Yeah.
Like I used to make little tablet things that were notes to dentists, and I got tired of writing notes over and over to them, you know, like, well, I had to relieve the opposing for room. So I just make a check. I just went on the computer and did a little checkbox thing. Then you just check this box, and, you know, rip it off and stick it on the bill. And those were great. But I take them to the Kinko's and you sit there and you use their little cutter. But they have these really neat cutters that you'd have a cutter on a bed. Then the bed has it's like a checkerboard on it. So when you line your picture up on it, you can line it up exactly perpendicular where you want it. And then if you can imagine, this cutter was running on two steel rods, and all you do is just pull it down. You're just pulling the thing down, and it cuts the edge of your board. And it's just a glorified box cutter, but it cuts perfect every time. And it won't touch your picture. That's being held down by plexiglass. You have little pieces of plexiglass that hold it down, and then you just take it and cut it down with using the rod. It did take some doing, but you can make it. You
know, Tim, it seemed like it might be better off just buying a 50-inch 4,000 4K TV and just projecting your images on that, and then, you know, instead of having one fixed print, you've got these beautiful TV sets now that you just put all the prints up. You know,
Yeah.
Or just, or
you know,
just
that
a
brings,
series of TVs.
yeah. But yeah, maybe a little bit more power would be required for that. But you know, and that's another thing that's really nice about this board is I can do a board like that. I can hang a board with a single clip because the stuff is so lightweight.
Very light.
Yeah,
light,
and you can just stick it up there with a single clip. I still got them up there, and they're still hanging just right where I put them and stuff. So it's definitely the way to go. You know,
I would, you know, Dick, I would say instead of aluminum, I'd be looking towards something like plexiglass because they can, the guys at the shops, they can cut that edge on a plexiglass absolutely dead ass straight.
okay.
And you could take your
And lay
box
that on
cutters.
top.
Yeah, they're pretty clean. It's pretty
Yeah,
clean stuff.
really. Yeah.
Anyway, I've said my piece.
Yeah, it's fun though. At least it worked out really good though. I was really pretty pleased with the way that it worked out, especially the roll method. So that worked.
Yeah, that's a good trick. It's and the diagonal, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, the diagonal I got from another guy. And the reason for that, of course, is you have the smallest amount of contact surface to begin with, because you got to get it started. So you got to put that corner down and then get it the rest of the way. And I was a little skewed by the time I got done, but that's okay because you're going to cut it down and you got those 2/10 of an inch border all the way around it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you're close. As long
Yeah.
as you're close, that'd be a great way to go. Well, Tom, I have on my end, I'm still on hiatus with my little 8-inch mirror. I took a look through the tester last week before I came to the meeting, and I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm just at a standstill with that. What I may do after talking to, I hope you don't mind me, can I just interject this right now? I'm going to take 5 minutes.
Sure.
The mirror to me looks like there's some issues in the middle. And talking to Tom Whittemore, he thought that I might go from this sub-diameter lap that I'm using to a full lap again. So I pressed that out for a long time. And I'm going to have to do that again because it's been a while since I worked with it. But I may roll the dice. The last time I used the full lap on this, I turned an edge and I went right back to the beginning again. But I'm close. As it is, I'm really close. And what I want to do before I try testing again is before I try to find a dark place, 2 things. I'm going to replace the LED that I have in this tester. It's too big. It's like a 3/8 inch LED. It's like a the front end is a 3 milliwatt or 3 mil. No, the 3. Is it millivolt?
No, it's usually milliwatts, but I think that sounds it might be a little.
I got it right here. But the one I have is 3, and I have a 2.2, so it's going to be less voltage. And
Or
I'll
less
tell you real
current,
quick
yeah.
here. And the thing is, I want to go back to a smaller LED. I can probably really pot it down to a much dimmer light. And the one I've got is really bright. It's working good. It's working good. I've gotten the tape. I put tape over it rather than trying to use a knife edge or slit or any of that. Yeah, the ones I'm using are 3 to 3.2 volt. That's the forward voltage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 volt to 3.2 volt, and 20 milliamp. And the other ones I have are less than that by far. Where are they? Right here. The ones I'm going to replace it with are a 2 volt to 2.2 volt, 20 milliamp. And it's going to be a calmer light, and that's what I need. So I'm going to build another little wooden part for it to hold that LED, and then resolder it in. And then at the same time, I may try to press out that large lap and do a little work on the inside 60, the inside 60 zone. In other words, if you imagine an 8-inch mirror, and there's different zones from 0 in the center out to 100% at the edge. Well, the 60 zone is going to be put it this way: 70 zone is halfway from the center point to the edge. That's 70% of the light is going to be reflected back. So it's somewhere in that 65 area, 65 zone into the center. There's something going on there that I've got to correct. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use a smaller lap or the large one.
Tim, I wanted to ask Hank. Hank, do you understand a circuit to control LED light? If the LEDs usually require a minimum like 3 volts, but if you want to vary the brightness, can you just put a potentiometer, but you got to drop at least 3 volts across it, right, to get some light out of it? How do you vary the light of an LED? Do you know how to do that?
Well, if you do it the Arduino way, I think the only thing it can do is PWM, pulse width modulation. So it's just you turn it on and off real quick, and it's going to be more on if you want it brighter and less on if it's and you.
But Hank, what I was talking with Jerry and Tom Whittemore one time in one of the workshops, and they were saying that the issue with these LEDs is that you can pot them down, but you won't, the little red lights that we have for star parties, you can pot them down to almost 0. But with these, for some reason with these LEDs, I can only take them down so far, and then they don't go any dimmer. And I don't know why they're not doing it.
I think Hank's got the right idea. Do PWM, because if you do
that?
Pulse width modulation, because basically what you're doing is you're turning it on and off at a rate, and you can control the duty cycle. So in other words, the number of times you turn it on and off, and then in effect is going to appear to the human eye as dimming and brightening. You can get these dimmers online here, I think too, and that's kind of the way that they work. I think that you got to get one that'll work with LEDs, not the ones that are working off 110 volts, but what you can get with for just LEDs themselves. So get one of those, get something that's PWM, and you got it made, because you can vary the duty cycle at which that light goes, and then the effect is being able to dim and brighten it.
Okay.
It's the same sort of deal that they do with the 110 volt ones, that they make these dimmers with them. That's, I think, all probably PWM as well. But in that case, they're probably using the 60 cycles that you get as the.
But I have to go through an Arduino?
No. The thing is, the reason I think why it's recommended for the Arduino is because the Arduino simply doesn't have good digital to analog. It doesn't have real. The only thing it has is PWM. So that's why they recommend that for the Arduino. I don't know if this is a good thing in general.
I would think it would be, though, because like you said, you got to have that voltage. See, you got to have that breakover voltage, and you can't really control the current very well once you break over that voltage, because it's a real sharp knee after that. So you really have very little control over keeping that thing bright with, let's say, a potentiometer or some kind of control circuit. You've got to turn that thing on and off in order to.
Yeah, because I was just going to go get the potentiometer that I have. I think is a 10K, and I think they have like 100K potentiometer. Yeah. And I thought, hey, if I get that, well, I should be able to turn it down to 0. You would think. But
you can't, because you see, it's not like a linear curve. You're going to have a breakover voltage where the light's going to turn on. Then after that, the current's going to increase real rapidly. So it's like a knee relationship. It goes up like that, and then it just goes right on. So I'm going to say right now, I think your best bet, and they've got these dimmers. You can get these dimmers, and that's what they do. They do the same thing that Hank is talking about, where they just vary the duty cycle of it. Let me see if I can find something on that. Okay. I'm sure they got that stuff. And PWM, I got to write this down. Yeah, pulse width modulation is the way to go, because, like I said, you're going to have to get up to that breakover voltage for that LED. So and that's how these dimmers work on the house. That's the same thing. Same thing. It's the same deal. What's that PNP that you have right there? What's that?
It's a transistor.
Transistor, yeah, that's a type of transistor. You got NPN and PNP. They're 2 different types.
Oh,
so.
Well, I'm so dumb when it comes to electricity, but this PWM, I should be able to find that out.
That's what I'm thinking is you can get these dimmers, and they're 12 volt.
12-volt dimmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm running 6. Let's say I have 3 AA batteries, so I'm running what 4.5 volt.
Okay, so let's say a 5-volt LED dimmer.
Okay.
Okay, I'm putting that in Amazon right now. Now, this is not coming up with the right stuff. It doesn't look like one.
Okay, so
Okay, here we go. Like here's well, here's one here that says 3 volts to 35 volts at 5 amps, and it's a PWM LED dimmer, and it's like $6.88. It's like a little rheostat
that
guy.
should do it.
That might do
right?
it. That one there is made by Happy Sky Mall. That was on. All I did was do 5-volt LED dimmer on Amazon.
Well, Dick, go ahead and share that screen. Go ahead and share that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can. Let me drill in on it first here, and then.
Yeah, because half of my battle is going to be able to dim the light. The other half is going to be able to get a good slit, good clean slit. I think another issue with this LED that I have is that the little elements inside the LED, they're kind of coming through. No matter what I do, I tried to sand the top of the LED so it was real diffuse, but I'm still getting that light coming from that element inside. So that's another reason for going to a smaller LED.
Mm-hmm. So, like this one here, now I don't know anything. I just opened this up, so I really don't know anything about it. But I got to believe they've got stuff like this. See?
Yeah.
It's all like one little compact little guy. It's got your little, the equivalent of a potentiometer control type thing there. And it's a high-speed PWM LED dimmer, 3 volts to 35 volts, up to 5 amps, 90-watt switching frequency. So you got plenty of power. That's way more than you're going to need for what you're talking about.
Where do I solder the wires to? It looks
well,
like
I'm going to say there's, let's see, you probably got, let me see who it is. You probably
looks like the little 4 clips there.
Yeah.
Kind of the little, the kind that you hit with a little screwdriver.
Yeah, I'd say like one of these guys right here, one of the these 2 terminal blocks in here. I'm just, throwing this out.
One side for power.
One side's going to be for the power, and the other side's going to be for what you're trying to control. Your light. So you'd have to, they probably got, when you buy it, you probably get like a little schematic that shows you what you got to do.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is the one you should get, but I got to believe that they got stuff. Here's those are speed controllers. They got motor speed controllers. I know they got those up the yin yang, but they also have dimmers too. So you can use a dimmer. They've got these things. They've got LED. Let's say maybe 12 volt, because I'm thinking car battery. They may have something there. LED dimmer. LED dimmer. Now I don't know PWM dimming. Right there. There's one right there. Mini LED dimmer knob with rotary control switch. 12 to 24 volt LEDs. So they got them in various voltage sorts. 12 volts is a good one because all your car batteries and stuff like that are using those sorts of things. So you can see where we're at here. Why would they have these if you didn't need them? So that's what I'm saying. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get excellent control there. You're not going to be able to get it with a rheostat because you don't have a linear relationship between voltage and current with one of those devices. You got a knee. It goes up and you get up to that knee, and then the light turns on, and then the current goes way the heck up. So it's a non-linear relationship.
There it is.
You can't take a linear rheostat and make it work. You're going to need PWM setup.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Hank, for that info. That's helpful.
Yeah. I'm just looking, what kind of LEDs do you have? I have a box of LEDs. I've never used them, but.
Well, I have a million of these guys that are, look at that. These are the little tiny guys that are the 2.2 volt. And then these are the larger guys, and I got a ton of those. But I'm trying to get away with I want to use a green LED because I think that the light, a dim green light, is one that works really well with the and so the little dinky guy that I've got is a yellow green, and that should work fine.
Yeah.
All I got to do is wire it in and try it, and I got to find the notes again on the resistors.
Right.
Bruce showed me the little equation you got to use for what kind of amount of resistance. But it turns out that when I was talking to you guys, you just said, hey, use as much as you want. You know, just make sure you're over that threshold, and you can use whatever you want. The potentiometer itself is like 10K.
And if you get one of those PWM setups, you don't need, all you need to do is probably worry about the input voltage, and it takes a range of voltages, and then the output, you just put it out to the LED. There's nothing else that you need to really worry about.
I shouldn't have said that the potentiometer will do it, because I think I told you guys once I had this really neat blue LED, and I decided to run without any resistance at all. And it was the prettiest blue you've ever seen for 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, I was going to say, that'll burn that sucker out real quick.
It was just puff, and it was gone.
Roman candle.
So I'm not really great with electricity, but I mean, it's not like I can't learn. So I'll give it a whirl. In the meantime, that what I was saying about that mirror is that I think in the future here, I'm going to be done with that guitar here pretty soon. And once I'm done with that, I've got a ton of house projects I got to get to. But along with that, I want to finish that 8-inch mirror. And I'm close right now. I'm really scared to go with a full lap, because the last time I did that, I just turned the edge something fierce. But the key, the secret to all this polishing and figuring and everything in mirror making is to press the shit out of that lap that you're using. That pitch on top of your tool, if you get it really hot, and then you put the medium in between your mirror and that pitch, really, really hot, and then put a weight over it and let it go there for 45 minutes. Just let it sit on it. And the closer you can get that thing to mating, the better you're going to have the results you're going to have. I used to go to that mirror class, and we'd run from 7:30 to 9, and I'd press for 10 minutes and just start. And I had all kinds of weird shapes coming out of that. Tom Totten knows, he used to take pictures of this stuff. It looked like Mr. Peanut, I had all kinds of weird squiggly lines. So I've done everything but the right thing, and I'm getting close to doing the right thing here. Tom
I think Tim, I think you need to build an observatory on top of your house there. That'll be a good house project.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. I went on, I can't remember. I was going up to Whittemore's house, and I was going up the road there by Bank of America. I can't remember the name of that road, but I was going up there one day, and I'm looking over to the right, and there's all these trees and stuff. And some guy had an observatory up on the second floor. You could see the turret up on top of his house. It's somewhere over there. I'm going to run by it again. But it'd be kind of cool to stop at the guy's house and knock on the door and go, hey, wait a minute. Are you looking at something up there? Or is that a machine gun? So, but it'd be kind of neat. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for the mirror. I've just come to a standstill with it, because basically I can't find a dark place to test. And Chibnik was telling me that a really good thing he did in his garage was just took a blanket, and he took some poles and bent them around, and then he just took the blanket or a sheet and laid them over these poles and created a tunnel, so you could look down this tunnel, and that blocked out a lot of the light. That's a really good way to go. Just get an old tarp and put it over that.
Tim, you can just work at nighttime.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, there's a caveat to that. I get because I can be out here in the front room doing that, but I'd wake my wife up. She goes to bed really early. She's asleep right now, so wow. It's kind of a delicate situation. I have to find a place where I can go into a room where I'm not going to bother her, and it's dark enough, and I have the distance I need. when I started all this stuff, I thought, oh man, I'll just get done with this 8-inch. I have a 16-inch mirror blank that I got from Newport Glass. And
what is
they
Oh, look at Hank has something in his hands there. What do you got there in your hands, Hank?
No, I just ordered this. I have to do some work on the G11 because I'm trying to get down to high enough resolution and high enough torque. So I ordered this timer belt, and I need to somehow put that on my G11. So I'm just playing around with it. So it's like it's a 1 in 3 reduction. Feels pretty stiff. I have an axle that's exactly 5 millimeters, so I can cut pieces off of that. So the motor right now is going straight into a flex coupler that is straight connected to the worm. So it's as direct as it can be. What this is going to do is going to be, instead of the motor going into the worm, it's going to be this wheel here. So I'm going to have to put a piece of this axle through it and then put the flex coupler on this side. The motor and the motor is going to move to the bottom. So
do you run on a belt?
Yeah, on a belt, yeah. So that belt will give me more torque and higher resolution. So it should be an improvement by a factor 9, I think. See, if you have a micro stepper and you increase the micro steps to get better resolution, then the torque goes down proportionally, the incremental torque. So you're gonna, at some point, it's not gonna be strong enough to do what you want it to do. But if you add a belt, it's gonna be good enough. I think it's gonna be better.
Will the tension on the belt, is it going to be enough to turn? In other words, is that belt going to slip?
No. So it.
That's a tooth belt, isn't it? Does it have teeth
Yeah,
on
I
it?
was gonna say, it's a timing belt, right? Like,
It's a timing belt. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
timing belt.
Right. And so, yeah, the stepper itself moves pretty slow already. So this thing is not going to move at a very high speed. It will rotate once every 4 minutes. This big wheel, right? And so the smaller one will go a little faster. So I can run the stepper at a higher rate with fewer micro steps, and instead get the resolution from the timer belt. I think that's probably going to be as good as it gets, because yeah, once you get to 256 micro steps, that's like pushing it. Anyway, and I also have a bunch of little roller bearings. These are oops, where is it? Yeah, 5 millimeter, and I tried to fit them on this axle. You have to really push hard to get them on it. I think it fits just right. So if I get a hammer, I can probably hit it on there, and it'll be stuck and it will never move again. So maybe I can do something with it. I thought maybe I can support it on one side by by a roller bearing that's in a fixed place, because on the other side I'm going to have a flex coupler, and that flex coupler is too flexible to just stick this in and hope that it goes, because then it will twist a little bit and the belt will not work right. So I have to support it on the other side, and I was going to do that with this guy. Anyway, I'll see if I can get that working this weekend, and that's going to be the last modification I'll do on my G11, because it's already working fairly decently. But I think I can get more out of it if I use this timer belt. So I've got 2 of those, one for deck, one for RA. Actually, I bought everything twice, so if something goes wrong, I have a spare. That's usually what I do, but my time is, if you have to order something, you have to wait.
It's always good to have a spare.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be other
These
projects.
days.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Well, we're nearing the end, huh?
Yeah. Anybody have final words to say, or wait until next week? Somehow we
until next
lost Bob Richards there.
Yeah.
Next week, hopefully have a few more people, and do some astrophotography. Hopefully have some clear skies at some point.
I'm hoping. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Thanks for the info, guys, on this electronics. I'll look into it.
You bet.
You bet.
All right. We're
Thanks,
gonna call
guys.
call it good. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Later.